election. So anyway, I thought we would just cover the various aspects of Joe's career and life, and starting with the business. And you were a Wendy's representative, I think, and then became a franchisee. So if you could tell us a little bit about that journey and where we go from there.
Well, really quickly, I did start as an entrepreneur. Started in the business world. I worked for Wendy's corporate election there, and therefore not the best people win, but the best fundraisers win. That's not precluding that there isn't great people in politics in the States, but we need to get beyond this, the negative side of politics too. It just it bothers me to this day, even in Canadian politics, that we want to say how bad the other guy is, rather than, and he wants to say how bad we are too. I get that, right? Rather than saying what we would do different, how much better it would be if we did it that way. I used the line a lot, and I used it at lunch. I own some Wendy's restaurants, and I've never run an ad that says McDonald's sucks. Because I don't think it's positive. It just isn't going to work. I need to say how I'm better and how I'm different, right? And I think in politics we need to stress I'm okay that I'm different than you, right? But I believe in this, and I think it would treat the Canadian public better if we did it. In the municipal politics, the same way. I may be different than who I'm running against, but we both believe in making London a better place, or our municipalities a better place. But it's not making it a better place by saying someone else is bad. It's the friendliness of politics, and boy, we don't see enough of it anymore.
I think we saw that a little bit earlier when the introduction was done and the purging was done.
Yep.
But towards the end of your time in Ottawa, there was an incident when there was a gunman got loose on the hill and at the National War Monument. So someone asked me if I would ask you about your experience that day and what that brought to the hill.
Well, it still is traumatic. There's certainly some PTSD because of it. About 80 gunshots taking place about 5 feet outside the door of where you are is a harrowing issue. And for those of you that knew me at the time, many times we talked through this. And for a number of years, fireworks were impossible. Right? I remember my grandson banging on a steel pot in the kitchen, and I had to go into the bedroom. I've been through some counseling, so I knew enough how to settle it. But of late, my lovely wife Stephanie is an advocate for mental health, and still does a lot of peer support for mental health because she's bipolar, and that has also helped me get over that too. I mean, things happen to us in life that affect us for years. That was about as scary as it could possibly be. I wonder if Susan Troupe would mind if I told this story. We're standing there, and we've had the first kind of barrage of gunshots, 4 or 5, and we all have jumped up from our chair, and we're standing at the front of what is caucus room. Now, we're kind of locked in there, and even our phones aren't with us. They're in an antechamber next to us. But there's a translation booth. It's a pretty good-sized booth that people sit in and do translation, and it's soundproof, so it's pretty sturdy. And we hear more shots, and I kind of dive behind this translation booth, but I don't fit. I can't get out of, so I jump out of the way, and Susan happened to be standing there, and I shoved her in behind the translation booth in the sense that somebody better go in there, and it ended up maybe 15 or 20 people ended up in that crack, but scary as it could be.
So is that one of the things that not long after that you made the decision to leave politics?
Yeah, I'd already been there over 10 years at that time, and had really made a point when I first entered politics that I didn't think politics was permanent for anyone. That about 10 years was about the right amount of time. Unless you're changing levels of government or something, was probably right. And so it ended up being almost 12 years by the time the next election came along in 2015. But I'd pretty made my mind up probably a year and a half before, that I was going to leave, not reoffer, which gave Karen Vecchio, the best member of Parliament I've ever seen from a friendship point of view and a friendliness point of view, a chance to do 10 years in Parliament too. So.
And when we were talking about what we'd cover today, we talked about the interregnum, the period between Parliament Hill and your decision to run for mayor in St. Thomas. So what occupied your time in those years?
Well, I will say that, the decision had been made to retire and come home. I had businesses, had Boston Pizza and Wendy's at the time in between the two, and really thought I could retire and just take it easy for about 15 minutes. And I remember walking into Boston Pizza, and Jeff, my partner, said to me, "Wow, you're not planning on coming here all day, every day, are you?" And the best restaurant partner I've ever had in Marcy Pierce at my Wendy's, I went there afterwards, and she said exactly the same words. "You're not planning to come here all day, every day, are you?" I kind of got the idea I wasn't expected to be there every day. I talk for a living, and both of them explained to me I slowed down service. I caused a detriment to service if I was anywhere in the restaurant but the dining room. So I could come any day I wanted to spend talking to people, our constituent, and still do that is a lot. Stephanie's become a pro at it. She's really good at working the dining rooms. But I'm not allowed. Marcy still continues to say, no, you can't go behind the line. Because the minute you get back there, someone across the counter will say, "Hey, Joe, what about paving whatever street?" And I stop the whole line while I fix somebody's municipal problem. And no, I'm not allowed back there.
So you decided to go where you would be wanted.
Oh, so then
Municipal politics.
No, about 100 of my closest friends, or maybe more, came to me and said, "You know what this community needs is a better leader, and would you think of running for mayor?" And I observe other people's politics like a sport. I love watching everybody else, American politics, other municipalities, the province, the feds. I just eat that up. That's better than a football game for me. And I had been watching St. Thomas, my hometown, and it was not doing what it should have done. It was running into a number of crises on housing, certainly homelessness from a housing point of view, economic blight. We hadn't recovered from the 2008 recession we'd maintained. And I said, we can do better. I said, we can do better, right?
Addiction, right, Joe?
Pardon?
Addiction.
Oh, no, and addiction and mental health in our community too, and so many other things. I let 100 people convince me I should do this, or more than that, and it really did snowball, and it was quite good. And then what God blessed me with was a council that is phenomenal. We just seem to get along. We're good friends. We have differences of opinion. We can discuss topics. But we've made 2 or 3 great decisions that it'll never become personal. It's never going to be across the table in council. It's talking about the issue. And that once a decision is made, and I certainly have lost a couple too, the decision is unanimous before we leave the room. We're not revisiting it. We're not going to go to the street and say, "And he voted against a shelter," or whatever it might be. So they've been just phenomenal. I have 8 over time, about 11 different councillors, but the 8 I have now were what grew from there. We had a couple of deaths. We had we had another election in the middle of that. But it has been a phenomenal group. I've been sharing with some of my other municipal friends here that the average length of meeting in St. Thomas, Ontario, municipally, Monday nights, starting at 5, they're 56 minutes long. I can't say we're not getting things done. We're accomplishing things that just haven't been possible in other communities because we have a group that wants to work together, that comes to the meeting having already spoken to the directors about whatever issues might be on things we're trying to pass that night, and then getting it done. There's no ambush. There's never something that's brought up to one of our directors that they haven't been pre-warned it's going to be asked. It just is about the sanctity of governance. And I share this really strictly because governance is the difference. And even as a board of directors chair, and I see a couple great board of directors chairs in the audience, governance is our job. It is to decide whether the issue can be voted on, can be saved, and whether we can afford to do it. And those are truly the two biggest things that municipal politicians have to decide on. We have fantastic parks directors, engineers, whatever chiefs of staff, city managers that do great work on the administrative side. But when council gets involved in administrative decisions, in management decisions, you've gone off course. You already pay somebody over $100,000 a year to make those decisions and to do it right. And as I said, I watch other people's politics a lot, and sometimes it just becomes, I don't know why that topic is happening. We took away all committees, so there is no committees for members to sit on except for the ones that are legislated by the Ontario municipal to do it. And so we're much quicker at having all topics come to the floor and get a decision made on them. But we don't play. Councillor Wookie, one of my best, is forever saying, I'm not going to make eye contact with the mayor right now because I'm going to pretend I'm the assistant deputy engineer and ask a question that I have no right asking. What size of pipe is that? There is no time and place when a member of council needs to know what size that pipe is. Right? We need to know that we need the pipe, that we need to run wastewater, we need to run water, right? So out of fun now, it becomes, we make fun of each other when somebody asks a managerial question. Right? Well, I think that pipe's 24 inches, Councillor Wookie. Now, what did you get from that? Right? And so it's about, if we do governance in the right way, this really stops us from being the assistant parks director or the assistant engineer, and that needs to happen in most municipalities. It was always completely different than that in St. Thomas. At least one councillor would be the chair of the Parks and Rec Committee, and so he thought he was the assistant Parks and Rec director, and it just caused more grief. And just building that level of respect over these last 8 years so that people didn't sit there and say, you're an idiot. It just isn't the right professionalism in the first place, but it's well beyond the scope of picking a project, right? Whether you can agree or disagree, and you can even state in your comments at council, I disagree with you, council, that is not probably what we should be doing. But then let the majority, municipal governance and provincial governments and federal governments from a government relations point of view, because I think there's a lot of gap in there that can be done.
I think a lot of us would agree on that. But one of the things that makes a municipality successful is putting the plans and infrastructure in place to be able to attract more population and attract industry. So how did you manage to achieve that?
Well, we decided fairly early after 2018's election that we needed a strategic plan that would allow us to grow at a very rapid pace. We knew that St. Thomas was growing at about 1,000 people a year then, probably 2,000 people a year now, because as we've attracted other industries and such. So we put together a strategic plan that allowed us to address each of the 5 or 6 things that have to do with smart growth. How's our road system? How's our servicing system? Is there enough wastewater and water and electricity? What's the parks look like? I kept reminding people, I spent a little time in Mississauga early in their time too, and I don't like how other communities have grown, especially when growth is forced on you because people are coming. St. Thomas was growing at 1,000 people or 1,500 or 2,000 people a year, and not because we said, let's do that. We said it's because people want to choose St. Thomas. People are coming here and want to live. And so if that's going to be the case, what are the things we must accomplish? So we said, well, housing. About 1,000 people a year means 500 houses as a bare minimum. About 1,000 people a year means this much road work, this type of servicing for water and wastewater. And we said, 1,000 people are coming here. We hope they're coming with some sort of financial plan. But for the most part, we said, perhaps we better find some jobs for some of these people too. And so on top of looking at from a housing crisis and a homeless crisis and all of the things, look, we became great multitaskers. We also decided that we would take an area of industrial land that was designated industrial land and actually purchase it and service it. with the intent that we might attract an industry. We checked all of southern Ontario and almost nobody had ready land to go. Everybody had a big sign up saying industrial park. But it was still owned by someone else and it wasn't serviced. So we said, well, let's get ahead of it and see what happens. So we did. And the old build it and they will come theory, right? And it almost worked that way, except the first phone call I got was from the province. And the province said, Joe, what are you doing? You've taken a really large amount of acreage, called it an industrial park, and serviced it. What are you expecting? And I said, I'm expecting industry to come. You got any? And at the time, Minister Fideli and the Premier said, yes, we do. We got 4 or 5 very large projects from around the world that want to be somewhere. If we also assist you in making that industrial area a little bigger, okay, if we put your name into, I said, great, who are we trying to attract? They said, sign this. First of all, they wouldn't tell us regardless. And then once we got to a point, then a non-disclosure agreement becomes very, very, very strict. But it turns out that it was Volkswagen. It turns out it was PowerCo was the one we were dealing with. When we first started talking to them, there's 96 cities involved in trying to attract this gigafactory to St. Thomas. And we kept hearing this is the largest industrial plant in Canada, maybe in North America, if we get it. Wow, I can't vision that. Anyway, and it got down to just 2 cities, us and Tulsa, Oklahoma is what we heard who the other one was, and we ended up winning it. We think that the checkbox in many of these attracting industries is the same. You have a labor force, you have water, you have electricity, you have a hospital, you have all the amenities communities need. And so I just said after a bit, because yes is always the answer, right? Let's relationship them to death. That's the best I can do. If we can't be their best friend, if they don't pick us after we're their best friend, then we don't deserve to get them. And sure enough, we get the phone call one day. We've attracted Volkswagen and their 10 million square foot factory to the city of St. Thomas. And since then, it's been an ongoing attraction of even more industry. And so we'll continue to do it. Right? But that was how we got there, was by us having a strategic plan that we didn't leave on a shelf to get dusty. We had a strategic plan on the shelf that we look at, and now in today we have 3 meetings a month, the first, second, and third Monday of the month, and the second Monday of the month is nothing but review of that strategic plan and its key performance indicators of where are we, and do we need to rewrite something. Can we agree that we're still on the right path from an industrial point of view or from a parks and rec point of view? And so it's running like a business, but don't tell them because they'll get mad at you.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Now I guess we'll open it up to some questions.
Great.
So I think Joe always likes to take questions.
Was I one of those conservatives you didn't want to have?
Oh, no. Ed and I we lived in the same apartment building, so I'll finish the story. And we started off, because we lived in the same apartment building, we both like cigars, and one of us liked scotch better than the other, but I didn't turn it down. After the first 3 or 4 nights, because it would be like 9 o'clock before we got back to the apartment building, Parliament's a busy place, and waking up the next mornings were really tough for me. I said, Ed, we've got to either drink scotch or smoke cigars, but we can't do both. I'll never be able to keep, I won't make my life this way. So we started just smoking cigars, because I had an apartment where my lease didn't say we couldn't smoke, and Ed's lease said it could, that he could not smoke in his apartment. So we solved the problems of the world almost every night. Right? And occasionally we invite other people. I remember Holback and a bunch of others being there, and even when we had extra, nobody wrote down what we talked about, so we had to redo it again the next night. So. But I'll never forget the camaraderie that you get, because you're doing a job almost nobody else is doing, and you're doing it with a group of people who have to follow the same rules. And so your only friends you actually have are the other members of Parliament, and some of them in other parties, certainly. Questions? Okay, nobody has anything.
I have one question.
Fire.
I'm really impressed with what you've done in St. Thomas with our homeless people.
Yeah.
How can you help us here in London?
Well, you know, it's pretty simplistic, but I'll say it again. I've been saying it in almost every speech. You know what the solution to homelessness is? Housing. And if you're not building a great amount of the housing you need, you're not solving the problem. And no offense, because that's not cheap to do, or it's not expensive to do either, because we've kind of proved that the provincial government and the federal government will play with you. We'll give you the money to do it if you're ready to do it and you agree what you're accomplishing. We took a by names list early in 2019, early in 2020 something, and where that is an inventory of homelessness in our community. We went out and did a person-to-person census and got their names, and we call it a by names list. And then the first by names list we had 170 people on it. And we knew that our shelter was not big enough to handle the people who were going to need sheltering. So we made a bigger shelter, and it worked good, and a low barrier shelter where people want to be there rather than be out. For the last 4 years, we haven't had camping. We don't have people living on our streets. If we find that, we have a protocol to go to them immediately. We have a great street team of special constables and a mental health team on the street that we go and convince them that the shelter is a far better place for them. And as we continued to build supportive housing, mostly with the help of Indwell, we kept whittling down that list. We found some other really unique things, because by putting our special constables in the street and putting people into housing using Indwell, I'll just give you the stats on the first one. The first was a 16 unit. We weren't sure we were in love with Indwell yet, and they weren't sure they were in love with us. So we put 16 people above our transit station in a space that used to store city signs and stuff. It was something we could easily renovate, so we did. 16 of the highest acuity homeless people, and ones that needed the help the most, because Indwell helps with wraparound services from a mental health and a addictions point of view. So we took the toughest 16, if you will, and housed them. And it was amazing what we saw. First of all, the worst 16 were off the street, if you will, and we started right into what our next building would be. But what we found a year later is those 16 people had 800 interactions with our police force in the year before we housed them. And that would be very similar with homelessness in just about any other community. And if you want to multiply the same way, that's how many ER visits you're also getting out of the same people. It just is, homelessness causes both of those things. So can I say I found the money by reducing the policing time? No. But what it did do is let our police go out on the street and do what they do best. And the same thing with it. So anyway, that was the first 16. We then built before one was finished, we had started another 45 unit building with Indwell. We now have a 78 unit building under construction, but at the same time we've built 40 tiny homes, which will house about 60 people, mostly with a single mom capacity to it. We have Eastwood, another builder, charity church, who does a lot of housing, building 85 that will open next month. And some of those, because we don't build them, we contribute to them. So when Eastwood came to us and said, would you do this? We said, sure, we're going to give you $4 million, but we want some of the doors. When you open up the 85 deeply affordable housing units, we want to take some people off our list or take some more of the supportive housing. Early in 27, I keep saying this and my housing person pokes me, we will have zero. We will hit zero homelessness. And that's a functional number, because there are some people may never come in out of the cold, but we've dealt with all we can on our by names list. And I say in two ways: any municipality can do it. It's the will of council and the will to do it. And second, it does not, or the other pieces of society, and that opens up more freedom. I expect some of the supportive housing we've built, and including our emergency shelter right now, will become affordable housing in the next year also.
Wow.
Right? So it's transitional. It can be done.
Wonderful.
After 22 years in politics, what accomplishment are you most proud of, and what do you wish you would have done differently?
I don't know. There's times when I say I should have stayed in Parliament, but then it would have been in opposition, and I wouldn't have liked it as well, to maybe accomplish more things. I say a lot, and for those of you that are involved in municipal politics, I don't know how. I mean, I started in federal politics. Kurt, you did doing the same thing. Municipal politics is so much better for me. It fits. It's a far better fit, and I wish I'd done it first, and I might not have done the other. That be maybe the first personal thing. What am I most proud of? I just mentioned homelessness, and that's. I mean, I've attracted a $7.5 billion, 10 million square foot factory to my community. It's going to be a lot of generationally different jobs for us in the future, and I probably should be pretty proud of that too. But those are the things we should do. Right, but to create an avenue to remove homelessness completely in your community is an excellent thing. I can't find a tent. I mean, I've got to go hunting, and if we do, we make the difference. Thanks.
Any more questions?
Garth?
I don't need that.
Sure you
Okay.
Last one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was curious about what you're going to do next. I was curious about what you said, what you're going to do next in terms of working on governance between municipal and provincial. Let's start with that one. I'd be very interested to hear more about that.
Well,
it's so important.
I'm first of all going to be a better husband to Stephanie. So Stephanie, put your hand up. Look, there's nothing lonelier than that 8 o'clock meeting you didn't want to be at that you have to be at, and somebody's waiting home for you. We have 4 puppies, and they miss me dearly too. At least I think they do. But mostly, I think that there's been a gap, and one thing I've noticed is the gap of conversation between the other levels of government, whether it's municipal and provincial, or municipal and federal, or even provincial and federal, and sometimes it has to do with what party is in place in each one. And I'd like to just break those barriers down and do some work with some of the GR firms on that type of thing. I want to do it about a day a week.
Paid.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Consulting.
Yeah. And so that's what I think I'll do. I have a passion for that, and we'll see how long that lasts. Stephanie and I haven't taken a warm vacation in a long time, and so there'll be a couple of those this year too. Because we're going to be living in one of the coldest places on the face of the earth. There's Oliphant last winter had 6 feet of snow on my deck, so I'm hoping to avoid some of that.
Thank you. With that, we'll please invite Kurt to.
Well, thank you.
Podium if it's okay.
Hello, everyone here?
Yeah.
First of all, thank you to everyone, especially to Joe, sharing his experience.
Yeah.
As a junior member of Parliament and hearing your experience and also Ed, your experience, I feel honored and proud to be in the room of legends.
Well, we're glad Mike Wallace didn't come today.
I know Mr. Wallace also. With regards of discussing about leadership and the loyal conservative principles, which I share, and I now bring to the House of Commons. And also the experience of being a member of Parliament between 2004 and 2015. As I was sitting there, again, you sharing your experience, I was doing the math, like, okay, 2025, 2026, yeah, all the way to 2036. I think I can do it.
Yeah, okay.
But what stands out is when Joe first, in the House of Commons, you have to share a desk. So you have a seatmate. And what's interesting is, as I'm honored to stand here or be here, sharing a lunch with you on a Friday, this week is interesting because I call it bookends. And so I'm sharing the lunch here with all of you and Joe. But on Monday, I had a one-to-one lunch with his original seatmate when he got elected in 2004. And his seatmate, the name of that individual was Pierre Poilievre.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting week for myself. So again, hearing about experience on Monday, but also I appreciate hearing about the experience on Friday. On that note, I just want to add thank yous. Thank you to Rod White. Thank you to Ed Holder for introductions. Thank you to Howard Shears for the commentary. Thank you also to Sharon White, Stuart and Joy Bevan for putting this on, and also O Canada. Thank you to the staff of Ramada Inn that set up the nice lunch and coffee. But also, again, thank you to Joe for his experience, sharing his experience, and also to Stephanie for being at his side to allow him to be successful.
Thank you, Kurt. That was wonderful. Peter Cuddy would like to, I think you're speaking on behalf of the mayor.
Thank you. I apologize. I'm not on your program today. The mayor just learned that we're having this event for Joe. He sent me a text and asked me to bring his greetings to you, Joe. He's going to be in touch with you shortly. I'm sure he is all the time. Well, I don't know Joe well. We've met a few times, and but I will tell you one experience that when I met Joe, and it was 3 years ago. I was a first-year counselor, or maybe second-year counselor, and we were at the AMO conference. Right. And the night before, I was having dinner with Deputy Mayor Lewis and my wife Lisa, and I said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" I said, "I'm having breakfast with Never Say No Joe." And I said, "Well, great, have a good breakfast." So the next morning, we happened to sit across from you at breakfast. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
And so I'm leaving, and with Lisa, and Deputy Mayor Lewis said, "So Peter, where are you off today?" And I said, "I've got a delegation with Hydro One." And Joe says, "Tell them if they want a transformer, I'll put one in St. Thomas." Well, I wasn't sure if he was kidding or if he was serious. But anyway, dear Preston, it's been a privilege and an honor to learn to know you and get to know you better. And thank you so much for serving St. Thomas and for serving this area.
Well, and my thanks to Mayor Morgan also. Our time together in the region has shown that working regionally is also a huge success. We used to work in silos, and look at when we got Volkswagen, there was a time when London's economic development would say, "Oh crap, we missed it," and now we say, "What a great thing." There's about 100 supplier industries that are going to come, and they can all be shared in the region. And I guess our greatest success this year, and I thank Mayor Morgan for this too, is the regional look at making Highbury Avenue an economic highway. You know, it's been such a dangerous road for a long time, and I only have a little piece of it in St. Thomas. It kind of comes to me from the County of Elgin and the City of London having all of that expanse. But won't it be great when it's safe to drive it and safe to put trucks on it? And what a great spend of money that is from the provincial government. So I know I keep passing that on to my favorite minister. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. With that, this is our final program event before the summer break. And we're thinking about putting our speakers together for the fall. So if you have any ideas or can help with that, please let one of us know, Joy or Stuart, myself, Howard, and that would be much appreciated. Also, if we could get Ed and Kurt and Peter and Joe and Howard together for a picture here, so don't run off. Come on.
All right. You're kind of tired. Do you need a hand?
Yeah. With that, we are adjourned. So, if you'd like a picture with Joe, though, hang around and we can get you one.
I'll be here.
You should be front and center, man. Wait a second. Here's why. If you want a crop picture,
Oh no, you got to take the right person off the edge. Right.
Here we go. Here. As I said in my thank you note, I feel like I'm in between legends.
Yeah. How are we doing?
We will sit next together.
And a quick reminder, if you'd like one of Ed's coins, please see him afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. Who?
Okay, you do yours.
Push Sherry out of the way. She's my campaign manager. Sherry, get back in the picture.
Anyone else?
Danny, you got more? Okay. Stephanie too? Okay.
Look at Stephanie.
Yes.
Oh, more.
You guys look so bored. Let's cheer up a little bit. Smile and
You should see me inside.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Gentlemen here, Alex, you good? Okay, anyone else?
Rick?
No?
There you go, sir.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. Kirk, thank you.
Joe, as always,
Ed, thank
open.
you.
Thank you for this too.
Oh, well, you figure out where Judith's going to let you have it.
Well, she had a discussion with me afterwards, and I said it's staying, you know.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a great.
Well, you have an office now. No.
Well, I had in Portugal.
Right.
Put it in Portugal. That's going to be my problem.
Right.
You know, where am I?
Right.
How's my life?
Right, where do you end up? Right.
So I'll tell you more stories after that, but it's just really dynamic and very interesting. Great job. That was a fun part.
I talk professionally. Don't try this at home. I haven't written a speech in how long?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Hey, Jack.
Let's bring a picture together. I didn't get a good picture.
Oh, Jake?
I want a picture with your picture.
Adam, catching up. Only 2 years behind. Appreciate it, Doug. Good to see you, man. Hey, Dan.
Okay.
Okay, now I want this picture kind of just, no, it means something, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
You go down that way.
Do you know Dan Mine and Marion's work?
Yes, I met him today.
Good, perfect.
Perfect.
Thanks, Joe.
And it's light.
And it's late.
And it's been, there's now a spot on my wall in the mayor's office that says, what used to be there?
Sure. You guys want to hit down at this level or up there? Absolutely.
I'm giving you a microphone back. I almost went home with it.
Zach would look down.
All right, we're taking this picture.